Hey, are you somebody getting into web design, more so like JavaScript, React? You're looking at that kind of path, you're wanting to do web development? Well, here today I'm going to show you how to set up your environment for coding so that way you don't have any issues when it comes to working on your Windows environment. So let's go ahead and get into it step by step, showing you how to make things simpler, and that way you can have an easy time learning and coding and building your projects. Here we go. Alright guys, so if you made it this far in the video, you're really adamant about trying to get set up coding properly. So I have some experience with coding, and these are just some of my projects right here, as you can see. So with that being said, let's hop right into it. So the first thing you're going to do if you're on Windows, from my experience, this is my experience, right? You want to use WSL. The reason being is because yes, you could probably use PowerShell. Yes, you could probably use like Git Bash or something. But I've had a lot of interactions with people who are on Windows, and every time they've had an issue with something in their terminal or something, it just is because they're not using WSL. Because Windows on WSL integrates properly with a lot of things, especially VS Code, which is like the most popular code editor for web design and stuff. So, with that being said, WSL, if you want to kind of know what it is, a simplistic way of explaining it is it's basically letting you spin up a little bit of like sorry about that. So WSL is basically letting you spin up a little mini version of Linux on your Windows system, and it gives you it's your own file structure as well. First thing you're going to do is run over to PowerShell. You're going to type WSL dash dash install dash D Ubuntu Ubuntu, just like that. And you're gonna hit enter. And what this is gonna do is gonna install WSL for you, and then it's gonna install Ubuntu as a shell to run this on. So I already have Ubuntu and everything, but what you'll see is you'll see something similar to this, and it will load up, and it won't maybe look so much like this, but it'll load up. And it'll ask you to make a username, password, and all that. Those usernames and passwords don't have to be the same as your Windows account or anything like that. So you can just make them whatever you want. Just follow the prompts. And then once you get done with that, you'll basically have something that kind of looks similar to this, but it'll say maybe like your name and then like where you're at. So now if you take a look over in your file system and you go scroll all the way down, you'll see something like this, Linux. You have Ubuntu, and then you go to home, and then that name, that username that you created is right here. And so then usually what I do is you can create a folder right there called code, and I'll show you how to do that a little bit later in the video. So the next thing, once you have all this, is we're going to install Oh My Zsh, which is basically, if you ever use a MacBook, Mac runs off of Zsh. So it's basically a little bit of a higher level, and you can get some plugins terminal. And as far as terminals, I use Hyper.js is what I'm going to recommend. So this is a pretty cool terminal because you can get some cool themes, as you can see here, and it allows you to do a couple other things. So the next thing we're going to move on to is installing Oh My Zsh and Powerlevel10k, so that way you have a terminal, and also installing terminal. So Hyper.js, Oh My Zsh, and Powerlevel10k. So we're going to set our terminal up because now we have Linux spun up on our Windows. So now we can move over to getting a terminal and that swagged out. So we're going to do that in the next section. All right, terminal stuff. So here we go. So I recommend Hyper.js just because I think it's a pretty neat terminal. There's some other terminals out there. Some really other good ones are like Terminal, just in the Microsoft Store. It's literally called Terminal. There's some other ones. I forget the names of them, but you could research those. This is just my recommendations, what I use. So if you go over to Hyper.js, you click this download link, and it would download it. And there's some other options down here if you're on a different platform, but we're mainly just kind of focusing on Windows. So once you download this and you load it up, it's going to look something similar, like more like a black screen. And what you're going to see is you're going to want to be able to type bash. And so once you type bash in here, you'll actually be able to access your Ubuntu inside of this terminal. But we don't want to have to type bash every time. So if you go to files, then you go to edit, and then preferences, or you could do control comma like this. It's going to load up this notepad right here, and this is going to be a lot of settings for you. So I'm also going to give you a link to and some instructions in that GitHub repository on how you can set up something similar like this for Hyper.js terminal, like themes because it's just like a Pokemon theme that I have. So, but if you scroll down, you'll see something that kind of looks like this right here. So it'll give you some examples of what like you could do on each system. But basically, you're gonna have to give the file path for your specific, like where your bash is, right? So this, in my case, is file path for me. So this is the file path for most Windows because the main C drive is called, or hard drive is called C. Go to Windows, then you go down to System32, and then if I type bash and search for it, you'll see it right here. So bash.exe, and it should look just like this. And then so you put that where the shell is. Let me give that a space so you can kind of see it. And then also in the shell arguments, I just leave this blank. This works for me. It might recommend you could try, if it doesn't work for you, you could try a couple things, right? You could change this to WSL because I know some people have just, it works whenever they type WSL. I think I have both, but for some reason it only works whenever I type. Yeah, see, I have WSL as well, but it only works for me when I type bash. So I'm just gonna leave mine as bash, and then I also leave my shell arguments or args empty. But for some people, they've had to leave as login. I don't know why that is. It's a little weird, but that's just how that works, right? So next thing we're gonna do, and then once you're done making those save or those edits and stuff, you're just gonna hit Control S, and it's gonna save it, and then we can exit out of that. And so now, in order to get these cool little fancy things, we're going to download something called Powerlevel10k. The repository is in the link down below, but I also just gave you guys a link to a script that will basically just run that the script will basically just run everything you need. And I'll go over the script, and I got this script from Pablo's Spot, I think it's called. It's a pretty cool guy on YouTube that I found, helped me showing me how to set up Oh My Zsh and stuff. So it's gonna be able to install Oh My Zsh in the script. It's gonna install Powerlevel10k. It's gonna also install some other cool little things, some plugins, so that way you can, like when you're typing, you can see I have prefixer right there, and then I can also, if I just say Google chicken nuggets, right? Like I've done that before. It pops up with chicken nuggets, so I think that's pretty cool. You know, if you need a quick Google search. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna show you that script really quick right now. So if you look right here, this script is basically just giving an update and then installing Zsh, Oh My Zsh, and then after it installs Oh My Zsh, it's gonna run over and install Powerlevel10k, and then after that it's going to install it's going to make a directory called temp where it's going to install some font files. So if you don't install these font files, you see these little like emojis and stuff, those will come up as like squares with question marks in them. So the reason that is because the font's not accurate. So if we go back to this, you can see after that it gets some stuff from the prefix. So these are all the right here, these are the fonts, and then after that, these are just basically some extra commands that are going to finish running. And if you don't feel comfortable doing this, that's fine. There's a repository I'm going to link down below as well, so you can see how to install Oh My Zsh and Powerlevel10k straight from the repository if that's what you'd like to do. And then right after that, you're going to run that. All right, guys, so you're going to say sh-c parentheses or quote, sorry, curl, or sorry, you're gonna do $ parentheses curl, and then you're gonna do dash fs uppercase sl, and then you're gonna put the link, which I have right here, and then you're gonna end that parentheses, and then you're gonna end the quotes, and then you're just gonna run that, right? And it's gonna install everything. It's gonna run that whole script. It's gonna ask you some stuff, and I'll catch you guys right when it's back downloading and everything. Guys, so now everything's done. You can kind of notice that it downloaded the fonts right here, and then Oh My Zsh, and then it just did some updates in the beginning, so that way I got all the latest packages. And so we're gonna do a restart of our terminal, but also you guys should see, once you restart it, you should see some type of setup. Go through that setup. That way it'll just ask you some different things, and you can kind of customize this from the Powerlevel10k the way you'd like it. But also, before you do the setup, make sure that you go over to your C drive or whatever drive you have, and then go to the temp file, and then you're gonna go in here and you're gonna just basically click on these and then click install. Uh, if this basically is already installed, so I'm gonna click no, but on through all of those, you're just gonna click, you're gonna double click it and click install and do that for all of those. And so then after that, you'll be able to see these emojis. You run that. All right, so now once you have everything installed and you're pretty much at something similar to this, if you ran into any issues, please let me know. But I'll leave a link to the Powerlevel10k like setup process. That way you can kind of read yourself through the directions. It's pretty self-explanatory. Hey, do I like this? Click that. Do I like that? Click that. And so now, okay, so once you've ran through that, we're gonna download VS Code. VS Code is pretty simple to download. We're just gonna run over quick Google, type VS Code, download. You're gonna run over to this first link. Like I said, this might I haven't done this in a while, but you're just gonna download for Windows. Once you download that, you're gonna pull up VS Code. It's gonna look something like this. Probably not with all this code on there, but ignore all this. What we're gonna do is focus on extensions. So you're gonna go over to extensions, and you're gonna download WSL extension. Right? Once you, it's gonna look like this. So once you install that, you're gonna restart. You're gonna close out, open up your VS Code again, and then this is just another one that I have open. After that, you're gonna go over, and if you don't see anything like this running Ubuntu WSL2, anything like that, what you're gonna do is you're gonna do Control Shift P. You're gonna type connect, and then you're gonna see something called WSL connect to WSL, right? You're gonna click that, and it's gonna connect you to your remote, basically just whole Linux side, right? And so then I recommend, if you've never done anything with Linux, you go to you're in your home directory right now. You see this little home icon? That's what that means. And you should do mkdir, which is a make a directory and make something called code. And then if you do a ls, it'll list everything inside that directory. And you'll see that now right there, I have a code folder. And then inside of there, you can do cd code, which is changing directories into it. Hit enter, and you can start making folders and stuff, doing all your coding stuff. I'm not going to get too in depth on how Linux commands and stuff work because this isn't really about that. This is more so setting things up, so then that way you can learn those things. So yeah, Control J to close out. So we're going to close out of that, and then the next thing we're going to do, guys, so once you have that done, you're going to want to open up your Zsh file, which is where you're going to make sure that everything's connected properly so that way your Powerlevel10k is working as well. So you're going to type a code tilde slash dot zshrc, which is going to open up your RC for Zsh. And in here you should see something pretty similar, your path. You want to make sure this line is in there, csh underscore theme, and then your theme points to your Powerlevel10k, which is going to allow for your terminal to basically look like this. Um, that's just so plugins. I'll leave a link in the description on how to get plugins. I'm not going to go too in depth on plugins, but basically these should already be in there somewhat too. And then your source should point to this as well. And then if you want to make aliases, these are some aliases that I've made, and this is basically the syntax for it. Also make sure that something like this is at the bottom as well. Just double check. So we're going to close out of that. I'm going to open up our code editor, and you should be pretty close as far as Git too. If you're wondering about that, we do have Git. I'm going to show you how to set up GitHub now, and we're going to make a SSH key generator, so that way every time you push to GitHub, you don't have to you don't have to log in over and over again. So we're going to go over that next. Alright guys, so now we're going to talk about getting an SSH key generated for our GitHub, so that way every time we go and do a git pull or a git push, we don't have to type our username and password anymore. There's a couple other methods. You could use HTTPS. I hear that that's not as good as SSH. You can also cache your username and stuff, but first thing you're going to want to do is, because you have git, you're going to want to type a couple commands. So basically we're just going to set our username and set our password. Alright, so first thing you want to do is set your username, and you're going to want to set your so you're going to want to follow this: git config dash dash global user dot name, and then set a username. And then you can also check that by basically typing that. So as we can see, I just accidentally changed mine. So I'm going to change mine back to what I had it before. And now you might be wondering, like I used to, if this has to be the same as your GitHub. No, it does not. And then you're also going to type git config dash dash global, but instead of username, you're going to type email. You're going to put your email right here. And after you've done that, you can also do a git config user.email. Check your email. And what we're going to do is clear that. And next we're gonna start working on creating this SSH key, because now whenever you do a git pull or git push, you'll be prompted to put in your login, and we don't want to have to do that every time. So right here, what you'll do is you'll copy this. This is if you have like a newer computer. Um, if you have more like a legacy system, whatever a legacy system is, not quite sure. I guess like a really old thing that can't handle any of this, you would run this one instead. But we're gonna run the newer one because my computer is pretty good, I would say. So inside the quotes, we're gonna put our email. So do my email. Um, this inner file in which you'd like to save the key. So if you press enter right here, it'll just accept the default one, which is fine. We don't need it unless you want a like specific place where you want the key. So we're just gonna hit enter. Then we're gonna put a passphrase. So make sure that the passphrase is something that you'll remember. Keep that in mind. All right, after you've done this, you have a fingerprint and just your email. Don't worry about that. But if you do an ls and we actually do an ls in the I think it is SSH directory, you can see, yep, right here. You can see that this is your private key. So it's made two files, well, three technically. And this is your private key. So if we do a cat ID underscore e, basically just this whole thing, right? 519.pub. Well, actually, alright, so now if we cat this file, it's going to show us everything inside of it. This is going to be your public key. And so what you're going to do is you're just going to copy this. Boom. Copy that. You're going to head over to GitHub. You're going to type github.com/settings/keys. If you're not logged in, log in. Go to your settings. Go to SSH and GPG keys. You're going to create a new key. You can call this whatever you want. I'm just going to call it my primary key. And then right here, you're going to paste that in. Well, I guess it didn't save. So we're going to paste that in. Just like that. We're going to add SSH key. It's going to prompt you for your password. Do all that, and then I'll catch you back here after I put my password in. Alright guys, so next thing we're going to do, we're going to hop over back to this repo. And if you take the link right here, and if you scroll down under adding your SSH key to the SSH agent, you're going to click this working with SSH key phrase. So for some of you, you could probably just type SSH-add and it'll work, and you just type your passphrase. For me, I had to come over to this page, copy all this, and then paste it in, and it just ran it. And it's what it did is started up my agent, SSH agent, and now I'm able to put in my passphrase that I made earlier. And what this is going to do is going to add your private key to that. And now it says identity added, and it just added that private key. So now we should be good to go. Alright guys, last point I want to make is that now whenever you come here, you want to go to SSH and clone like this, because that way it's going to utilize the SSH. And you notice how the format's a little different. Instead of having this HTTPS, all that with the username and stuff, now it's just git at github.com :username / the repository. You also don't really need this .git. They just add it. But yeah. So next we're going to move on to setting up a little bit of VS Code, getting the extensions that are kind of useful and that I recommend. And I'm not going to go too in depth with that, but I'm just going to give you some of like a starter, a baseline, and then you could check out some other videos that I have on that, or you could, explore on your own. Alright, we're basically just going to go over to our extensions right here. We're going to drag this over some. We're honestly just going to close all this out. Just like that. And drop that down. Go over to our extensions, and you're gonna notice one key tip right now is that things you have installed locally might not pop up on your WSL, so you have to make sure that they stay in sync. And the way you can do that is by clicking this button, install local extensions in WSL Ubuntu. Click this, and it'll have a list of all the things that aren't installed on your WSL that are installed on your local device. Right now, this is currently just a GitHub theme, or actually, yeah, so I do need to install that. That's basically just GitHub Copilot. Um, so a couple of extensions that I recommend. I'm just gonna run through the list really quick and give some pretty important ones. Let's see. So if we look right here, all these are. So one that I recommend is Live Preview right here. So Live Preview will basically allow you to open up a basically run a little like web server on your own device, so that way you can see it. I actually do like live server a little more because it actually opens it up in the browser, makes it a little bit more realistic to me. But one of these two, live preview, live server, really work well. I also recommend Path IntelliSense. So if you look right here on, for example, we have this cart. So let's say I want to import, you might not know what an import is, but like let's say I want to go to the file path that's over here, right? So that means we'd have to go up one directory and over to the menu. So if you look, let's say we just import menu from, and now we're gonna give the file path. So if you look right here, I do a dot slash. You can see I see everything in here. This is path IntelliSense right now. So I go dot dot. That's one directory up, and we can say, hey, I want to go over to the menu, and now I want to import, and it should show menu 2, so it shows everything inside of that file as well, or folder. So I think that's pretty cool. It's pretty helpful, especially if you're new to like directories and stuff like that. You don't really know what's going on. Next one I'd say is Prettier. Prettier is really awesome. So like, let me give you an example of that. Let's just come over here and let's just start adding. Go right here. Let's start adding. I don't know, a div, and then let's say we want that div to say hello world, and then maybe inside under that we want a p tag that says hello small world. And then if you look right here, I'm going to control S, and you can see all that just got formatted the way that it looks a little bit better. The div is there. It goes in one. All these you can configure too in Prettier. Prettier has a bunch of settings, which is pretty cool as well. So I think if I do Control Shift P, Prettier configuration file, maybe it might open that up. Nothing open. So we're just gonna keep tracking along. Next thing I'd recommend is, let's see. Honestly, I have a lot of themes. Get yourself a good theme. So if you want to do like themes, color theme would be something like this, like your whole color palette. And then if you go back to themes, setting icon theme, file icon would be these right here. Well, no, it would be these right here. So what these look like, you can test those out. And then themes, product icons would just be this right here, like these on the side. So a good theme would be pretty nice to have as well. You can search right here. So you can just search themes, and it'll start loading up all of those right here, as you can see. Yeah, so all the ones I showed you, you can just search in the search bar and you should be able to find them. So let's see what else we have. Thunder Client is really good once you start making requests. I think they also have a new thing called Postman. So Postman is the same thing. So I haven't actually tried this, but I hear better things about Postman than I do Thunder Client, honestly. So I'm going to install this right now, actually. All you do usually is you just click install, give it a little bit of time. It says it's installing, and then it's installed. Sometimes it'll have you refresh, but right now it says this is good to go. So maybe Postman or Thunder Client as well. And honestly, a lot of these extensions are just to kind of help you out and give you a little bit more like better experience, I guess. They're not really an advantage too much. It just makes things a little bit easier. Auto rename tag I think is really well. So if you look right here, it's going to change both sides of this tag on this element. So you see as he typed, both sides changed. So that way you don't have to click there, change it, click there and change it. If you're somebody who likes to leave better looking comments, better comments literally is a good one as well. Let's see, definitely JavaScript ES6 code snippets. So you get a lot of code snippets from that. Excuse me on that. So code snippets, and if you're wondering on some themes, I recommend Monakai Pro. It's the one I'm currently using. I enjoy it a lot, but yeah, that's the one I'm using, and that's pretty much it for everything that I have. And if you're also wondering maybe what this is, I'm using this right here, background, that lets you import images or GIFs into your background. I wouldn't get too carried away with it, but these are just some cool things that I have installed that I thought would be really well. Also, maybe like ESLint. It's good for like checking, make sure you have things wrote a certain way. That's enough for basically extensions. Next thing we're gonna move over to is, all right, next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna install Node.js. So I'm gonna show you on the next slide. All right, next thing we're gonna do is install Node.js. So this link will be found in the description down below. Click this, scroll down, and you keep scrolling until you find a command like this. It's basically you're going to be able to run and install the latest version of Node. So if you install Node other ways by like going and getting, I don't know, installing it through like the exe or some other way, you won't get the latest version. So I recommend installing it like this. But if you do a node-v, you can see I have 18.15, which I can get away with. It's not too outdated. But if we run this, copy this, run that, hit enter, we're going to see it's updating and it's now installing that. So it should update me to the newest version of Node. I'll catch you guys when it's done downloading. Sorry, run into a couple issues. Learn some cool things about Node though. So basically you're going to need two things. You're going to want to run this script right here, which is going to, so I'll leave a link to this. It's going to download NVM for you. So what NVM is going to do, or sorry, this NVM is going to basically allow you, is Node Version Manager, and it'll allow you to do things like this. So as you saw a while ago, I had a Node version 18.5. Now I have 20.5, and all I had to do was type NVM install 20. Or if you already have it installed, you just type NVM use and then the version number. So basically it's that easy. What you'll do is you'll copy one of these and you'll install it. So you might get some type of issue saying the command is already, or NVM's already installed, but then when you go to type NVM, command won't be found. So what you'll have to do is you'll type code /.zshrc, open that up, and it's going to open up in VS Code. Give it a second. All right. And what you'll do is you'll come and you'll copy. You can get this actually right here. Boom. You'll get this from, scroll. Oh, all right. And you'll get this from right here. So I'll put a link to these in the description down below. So basically, if you're on Bash, you'll use this. If you're using the setup that I have, you'll basically just copy and paste that into there. It looks like they're all the same except for slight differences between the source and the backslash dot. But basically you just paste that into your bash RC or ZSH RC, and then that will allow it to connect. And then you'll have the NVM command, and what you'll do is after that you'll go back over to the node, and this is going to be the first page that you see. All you're going to do is find the version that you want. Honestly, you won't have to do this, but this is so in the future when you need to update, once they come out with a 21 or 22 or whatever version of Node, you can update quite easily. So just copy this, run that command, let it install Node, and then at the end of that, if you type node-v and you see a version like the one that you said specified to download, then you should be good to go. So to recap, you come to this Node.js, you install fresh version of Node, and then you should install NVM. So in the future, when you need to update Node, it'll be way easier. All you have to do is type one command. So next we're going to move on to installing Postgres, and we're also going to go over a couple key features and setting up your Postgres account so that way you don't have to type your password every time, and a couple other cool tips and tricks. Guys, I don't know if you could tell, but we love ChatGPT on this channel and anything AI. So what we've done is we've just looked up, give me a step by step for installing this. So I'm going to proofread this. We're going to go step by step. First thing you're definitely going to do is update all your packages. So I'll catch you when this is done. All right, after you've updated everything, you're going to want to run this command right here. And this is basically just going to install it. For me, it's already installed, so it won't install anything. All right, next thing you're going to do to check if it's running is you're going to do, on my system, it's sudo service PostgreSQL start. And then I hit enter and it says starting PostgreSQL 15 database server. So now if yours says 14, all right, so you should see something after this saying starting PostgreSQL 15. If yours says 14 or anything lower, you can run this upgrade command and it will basically just upgrade you to the latest one. Ask you if you want to remove anything, just hit yes, and it should upgrade you to that latest version. I'll catch you when that's done. Right. So now that we have that out of the way, what you're going to do is do a sudo service PostgreSQL start, and you should see something like that. Starting it, boom, clicks to the next one. You might have to type your password in here. I'll show you guys. It's optional if you don't want to type your password in every time you type sudo. It's something I took out because I got tired of typing my password. I don't think anybody's personally going to hack my stuff, but if you're like that, then you can keep your password. But I'll show you here in a second how to do that after we've installed Postgres. So after we got that up and running, you can also do up arrow and type status, and you can see what port this is running on as well. The default port is 5432, and it'll show you all that. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually type sudo -u Postgres psql. And what this is going to do is going to log you in as a user Postgres. Hit enter and you should see something similar to this. So now what you can do is run a command like this right here, and you want to replace your underscore username with the same username. It would be helpful if you replace it with the same username as the Linux account that you made. So mine in this case is Will Swinson. So I think it's who am I? Yeah, so so just type who am I, and I would recommend making it this, so that way whenever you type psql, you can log in as your account just like that, and you won't have to do anything else. So in order to get out of psql or Postgres, just do a \q, hit enter, and you can get out. So we're gonna up arrow a couple times, go back to Postgres, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna run this, you're gonna create an account, and then you'll do \q, and what you can do is you're gonna go to, all right, so you're gonna do cd/etc/PostgreSQL slash you're just gonna go there and you're gonna do an ls. So you should see a 15, and now you're gonna do cd 15 slash main, and then you're gonna go there and you're gonna do an ls. If you don't see a 15, you see maybe a 14 or something, then you go there. If you see a 15 and a 14, you're gonna want to uninstall or remove the 14, and that's easy as just removing it from the. I think you do sudo apt remove and then PostgreSQL 14. So if you do run into any issues here, just let me know. So we're gonna do a nano, and if nano says it's not installed or anything, you're just gonna do sudo apt install nano. I think it should be. But I think nano comes automatically, so you're gonna do nano, and then we're gonna do pg_hba conf, just like that. And what this is gonna do, so you're gonna want to add a sudo. So you're gonna control X out of that. You're gonna do sudo nano pg_hb, And now you can see you have this whole stuff. So you're going to use your arrow keys here. You're going to arrow key all the way down until you see something that looks like this. And yours might look a little bit different. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to change this over here from whatever it is. It should be probably like something like admin or something. You're going to change it to trust. So what that is going to allow you to do is not have to type password every time. If you do want to have to type a password so that way nobody hacks you or something, keep it the way it is. That's just a little tip or trick that I have so that way I don't have to type a password every time. And that should be, if yours looks just like mine, you should be good to go. You can control X out of there and it'll ask you to save. You hit S and you'll be good to go. But because I didn't edit anything, I didn't have to, it didn't ask me to save. But like, let's see if I change, like, let's say I add another mark like this, and then control X. It's gonna ask me if I want to save. Just hit Y, and then I'll control X one more time. Or hit Y and then hit enter. So you hit Y and then you hit enter, and it'll take you out of there and save that file. So next thing we're gonna do, alright, now that we've done that, we're gonna have to do one last thing. We're gonna have to give that user we created earlier, we're gonna have to give it permissions. So if you go and you do a tilde, hit enter, and you should type sudo -u PostgreSQL, and if you do a \du display users, you'll see that your Postgres account has super user, but the account that you had should also be here, and it should have super users. So what you're gonna do, alright, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna run this, you're gonna say alter role, and you're gonna put your name, in this case Will Swenson, with super user. Make sure you add the semicolon at the end, hit enter, you're gonna be good to go. And the way you can double check this is by typing \du. You should see your username, and next to it should be super user. And now what you can do is you should be able to now do a \q. You should be able to do something like pSQL and log straight in just like that. Actually, one last thing you're gonna have to do is you're gonna need to make a database. So you won't see any of this. So we're gonna go back, up arrow. So the last thing you're gonna want to do is you're gonna do create database, and then you're gonna put the name of your user that you just gave super user access to. And what this is gonna allow for you to do, and you're also gonna add that semicolon, hit enter, and then you'll do a \L, and what you'll see is if you see for Postgres, because we were able to just do pSQL Postgres, what that's doing is it's logging into the database. And so now you're going to log into database basically called with your username. So if you do pSQL, hit enter, now you're in in my case, Will Swenson database, but you're going to be in whatever your name or your account name database is going to be. And then you could do commands from here. You can do whatever you need to do from right there. And if you want to log back out one more time, \Q. And next I'm going to show you guys how we can stop typing sudo every time, so that way we don't have to type our password every time we use sudo on Linux. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to type sudo visudo, and what this is going to do is you hit enter, and you're going to probably be from the free password or whatever. You're going to scroll all the way down, and you're going to come down to this line that says allow members or groups sudo to execute any command. You're going to basically type in front of this last all, you're going to type no password :all, and you're going to make your line look just like this. This should be your username, not mine. And then you're just going to do Control X, hit Y, hit enter, and you'll be good to go. Now you can do, I don't know, sudo apt-get and see if it asks you, or sudo upgrade or a sudo update. I think it's get update. And you can see it doesn't ask me for my password, it just runs the command. And if that's what you want, then so be it. Go ahead and do that. If you want the security, don't do that. Then it's no harm, no foul. Next thing we're gonna move on to is Docker. So we're gonna move over to Google. We're gonna look up Docker Desktop. And the awesome thing is because we have WSL, it integrates perfectly with a lot of apps, like I'm telling you. So you're gonna hit download Docker Desktop. You're gonna download that, and it should pull up something that looks similar to this. I'll let this spin up really quick. Also, if you're having an issue where your Docker desktop's not loading at all and it's not starting the Docker engine, then you might have to go enable virtualization on your BIOS in your computer. The reason is because this is technically a virtual machine or a container, which is what Docker is all about. So it can't spin up a container if no virtualization is allowed on your BIOS. So if you want to know how to do that, just DM me, reach out to me, or look up a video on how to change virtualization on your BIOS. But if you have made it successful to this screen, something similar to this, then you're going to go to this cogwheel. You're going to go to resources. Well, first thing you're going to do is change this to dark mode, unless you're a madman. You're going to go to resources after that, WSL integration. You're going to check mark Ubuntu. You're going to click apply and restart. You're going to restart your machine, and then you could refresh this, and then you're going to exit, or you can just leave it open. You go to your terminal, and you should be able to type docker-v, and you should see something just like that that says Docker version, and you should be good to go from there. Um, that's pretty much all the pros and tips that I have for setting up a coding web development environment on your Windows computer or system. So I want to thank you guys for watching. If you're interested in basically just advancing your career, or not your career, but your goals and things and admirations in coding and web design, join my Discord in the link down below. We currently have 150, not subscribers, but people on there that are active, and they're always joining, and we're sharing knowledge and things like that, and we're going back and forth having a good time learning about code, etc., etc. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, join the Discord down below. I also have some cool valuable resources on there that you can access. So join that, check that out. I also want to invite you to subscribe. I can't keep doing these videos if you guys don't subscribe. Well, I can, but who doesn't want more subscribers? And I really appreciate, that's the only thing I ask, is for you guys to subscribe back to me in exchange for all this help. So I also want you to follow my Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. I'd appreciate that, and that would mean a lot. And I also do live streaming over there on Kick. You can give that a follow as well. Basically, just follow your boy up. Appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in this video over here where I'm talking about some more coding stuff.